Look, I'm going to start off by saying this. Instead of the title Men, it should be Men Behaving Badly. It's this mysterious, dramatic, sci-fi horror flick. And you've got a character called Harper, played by Jessie Harper, has been left traumatised. Is it Jessie Harper? Have I got that right?
Buckley.
Sorry?
Buckley.
Oh, it's Buckley rather than Harper. I think I wrote that down incorrectly. I thought this doesn't look right. Anyway, I apologise. So Buckley's been left traumatised by the untimely death of her abusive husband, who she planned to divorce. And that was against his pleas not to do so. She's decided to take a fortnight's break in the country. She books into a large, beautiful old home 4 hours from London, which is where she lives. And the owner, who lives nearby and shows her around the place, is too effusive and inappropriate. So she can't see him out of the door quickly enough. Deciding to take a walk in the picturesque surrounds, she's spooked by the appearance of a man at the end of a long and cavernous tunnel, because it's really just her, nature, and then he appears. But that turns out to be only the start of a bizarre series of events that sees her being stalked and engaged unsympathetically by the largely humorous townsfolk. And she appears to be in real danger. The situation escalates even further. All of this as she's plagued by visions of the relationship she had with her now dead husband. That's Men in a nutshell. I describe it as the deranged meets the ridiculous. What about you, Greg?
Look, this is certainly an unsettling film there. It's a creepy, unsettling film that subverts many of the tropes of the horror genre. It's in the vein of films like Get Out and Midsommar and all those, and I thought its ending was hardcore grotesque horror, more in the style of a David Cronenberg film. And I like the fact that Rory Kinnear plays all these men here. Harper's the only woman in the village, but all the men in the village, the policeman, the priest, the bartender, the creepy man, the naked man who's stalking her, they're all played by Rory Kinnear, and he makes each of them sort of creepy, disturbing, unsettling, imbued with a sense of menace all the way through there. And the film itself deals with some great themes of guilt, grief, trauma, sexuality, toxic masculinity, but it's also very aggressively misogynistic and claustrophobic there. And I think Alex Garland creates an unsettling vibe throughout. Lots of biblical references and allusions to pagan rituals, but it doesn't quite pay off, I don't think. And that ending does my head in, I think. And it will film that an allegory about the violence that men inflict on women. It will certainly divide audiences, I think. And its confronting nature will not appeal to a lot of people either, I don't think. But as a two-hander, and the performances of the two leads carry it off beautifully there. I thought it's a psychologically damaged Harper. Buckley was very good, conveys a good sense of confusion, bewilderment, fear, paranoia, and Kinnear plays the multiple roles here, each one more disturbing and creepy.
Well, look, I think maybe that was Garland's intent, to divide an audience, set out deliberately to do so. What do you think, Dave? Did it succeed in terms of its ambition?
Look, this film for me was one of the most disappointing of the year. I'm a huge Alex Garland fan. I love his screenplays, I love his novels, and I went into this really, really expecting something special. I think I enjoyed the first half of the movie, and I absolutely loathed the second half of the movie. There seems to be this element going through horror at the moment in America where the weirder the better, and what they don't realise is they're losing a lot of the hardcore horror fans that just don't like it. I loved Midsommar and films like that, but this one just completely lost me with the last quarter of the film. So, no, this was not one that I enjoyed at all.
I totally agree with you, Dave. It deteriorated dramatically. Peter, did it not?
No. I
Of course not. No.
I found this quite a challenging and fascinating film for a number of reasons, especially because you can interpret this film in a number of different ways, apart from the biblical religious sort of allusions in there and also about the treatment of women by men. It also, surprisingly, can be seen as being very anti-women, because the way that the film progresses, it's very psychologically grounded story in a very Freudian sort of way. It progresses into an area where Jessie Buckley's character could be the one who is creating all the tensions amongst all the men who are around her. I mean, that's quite a problematic interpretation, but I've noticed that a few other people have had that same sort of view. I found the last third of the film absolutely both repulsive and compelling all at the same time. And I think what Garland might be trying to say is that maybe men need to reinvent themselves so that they can be born in a different way, without giving too much away about what happens in the last third of the film, or whether women treat men in a particular way that causes the behaviour that they experience. I mean, because it's such a complex, subtextually strong sort of storyline, I really was quite compelled by it, and I thought this was a very clever piece of filmmaking that will make the audience discuss what they have seen.
Look, the longer it went, the more preposterous it got, until, as far as I'm concerned, it didn't have a shred of credibility at all. It did not. And as far as I'm concerned, it became a total farce. So, no, I wasn't sold on the script either, as David mentioned, although there are some genuine scares. And there's no doubt that as the lead, she tries her best and does the best she can with the material she has to work with. I think she's done a really good job. I don't have a problem with the acting as such, but the cinematography I thought was a noteworthy feature. Beautiful surrounds that provided a perfect counterpoint to the evil that lies underneath. And while it's certainly clear that misogyny is at play here, beyond that, most people, well, I put it to people who are going to see it, make of this claptrap what you will. For all I can see is over-the-top indulgence. And I thought it really was indulgent. I'm at sea trying to determine what the point of it was beyond establishing the fact that men can be brutal and belligerent. And we didn't need a movie like this to tell us, Peter, I'm afraid.
Well, as I say, interpretations can be made about what the story is about. And so, and when you talk about credibility, I suppose science fiction and horror films are all totally credible and are grounded in reality.
Well, of course they're not, but I mean, but the point is that if you believe what you're seeing, or you've got some belief, that aids your views of a movie, and I just didn't buy it, and that to me is a problem. If you switch off, like, I mean, all of us, other than you, have sort of said the last third, the last, I don't know, 20%, it really lost its way. I mean, it's MA rated for very, very good reason. It runs for 100 minutes. It's called Men, and let's get a score. So we'll start with, we'll do shortest to tallest, and I'll start 3 out of 10. It was shocking. Right. Let's go from there to Dave.
Yeah, 4 out of 10 for me. The last bit just lost me.
Mm-hmm. Gregory King?
5 out of 10. There are some interesting ideas here, but again, the last bit just turned me right off.
Yep. Okay, now, there's no drum roll for you, Peter, because this is not a movie worthy of a drum roll, I'm afraid. It really isn't. I'm going to try and guess what you're going to give it. How's that? Actually, we'll all do that, just as a bit of a game. So, Dave, what do you reckon Peter's going to give it out of 10?
7.
Mm-hmm. Gregory?
I'd say 7 to 7.5, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say 7.5. Go on, Peter.
I think Men is a film to really savour in terms of its incredible storyline and discussion points that it raises by the end of the film. Not an easy watch, but a compelling watch nonetheless. 8 out of 10.
So what does that put that alongside? I mean, we're putting this alongside Alien, are we? Are we going that far?
Totally different film.
No, we know it's a totally different film, but where does it put it? Go on.
It's apples and oranges. I mean, it's 8 for one film. It's not the same as 8 for another.
What would you? Jesus, you're one of these excusing, like the Oscars. They have to pick a film. Would you go along and say no, I can't do that?
No, you would look at films in particular ways and make your own judgment.
So, what would you have given Alien? I'm curious.
Oh, look, it was groundbreaking at the time. It probably is about an 8 out of 10 film.
Wow. So Peter equates this film with that film, even though it's a different time frame. Oh, my golly.
And a different story.
I did notice that. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Well, having said that, let's go on to another movie which I expected a lot of because